Alright, we're looking at solving trig equations. Let's get right into it with your quiz coming up. First thing we're looking at is just inverse trig functions. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our chart and say, okay, when do we see sine as 1/2? Well, that's at 30 degrees. Now, the question is, when is sine negative? That's in quadrants 3 and quadrant 4. So we need what 30 degrees is in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Quadrant 3, we're going to do 180 plus 30 to get 210, and then we'll do 360 minus 30 to get 330 in quadrant 4. Over here, cosine is positive in 1 and 4. Root 2 over 2 is 45 degrees. So 45 degrees is quadrant 1. Quadrant 4 would be 315 degrees. Number 3, root 3 over 3 should be at 30 degrees. Then we're looking with tangent positive in 1 and 3. So 30 degrees and 210 degrees as my answer. And then quadrant, for number 4, arcsecant of 2, that's the same as saying the arcsecant of 1/2. So, or not arcsecant, I should say, arccosine of 1/2, which is positive in 1 and 4. Cosine is 1/2 at 60 degrees, and that means in quadrant 4 it would be 300 because it's 360 minus 60. Alright, the next one is just 2 steps to this process here. First, arc cosine of 1/2. Well, we just did that. It's 60 degrees and 300 degrees. So now what we want to do is we want to take sine of 60 and sine of 300. Well, we would look at our chart and just say, well, sine of 60 degrees, which is the same for 300 on your chart, is going to be the square root of 3 over 2. In 60 degrees, that's quadrant 1, so that should be a positive number for sine. 300 quadrant 4, sine is negative in quadrant 4, so that should be negative root 3 over 2. So for these, you'll get 2 answers, one positive, one negative, with the same number. Same here, arctangent of 3, well, that's, or square root of 3, I should say. It's square root of 3 at 60 degrees, which means my other answer, tangent's positive in quadrant 3, so I should do 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. So we want to say, when is cosine at 60 degrees? Cosine is 1/2 at 60 degrees, and then at 240 in quadrant 3, it should be negative 1/2. Alright, on to the big ones in solving these trig equations. Tangent of 2 theta needs to stay where it is. It needs to stay together. So we'll say tangent of 2 theta equals, if I divide both sides by root 3, I get 1 over root 3. That's the same as saying square root of 3 over 3. When is tangent equal to square root of 3 over 3? That is at 30 degrees, and in quadrant 3 for the other answer would be 210 degrees. Yeah, 30 for quadrant 1, and then 180 plus 30 in quadrant 3. That's what this inside part equals. 2 theta equals 30. To get theta by itself, I'll divide everything by 2. So that means theta now equals 15 and 105 as my answers. In number 2, I'm going to do the same thing. First, isolate the trig function. The secant of 1/2 theta equals negative 2. I don't like secant. Let me change it to cosine. The inside has to stay as it is, and I'm going to change this over here to be a fraction, 1 over 2 now. So we're going to say 1/2 theta when I do my arc cosine. When is cosine equal to 1/2? Well, that's at 60 degrees as my reference angle. However, we want negative, so quadrants 2 and quadrant 3. So quadrant 2 is 120, and in quadrant 3 it's 240. So to get theta by itself, I need to multiply these answers by 2, so I'll get 240 and 480 as my answers here. Number 9, I had a quadratic, and there's nothing I can pull out of everything, so I want to say, let's think of this as 2 big factors being equal to 0. So, in this one, we're factors of 1 that add to negative 2. Well, that's going to be negative 1 and 1. Also negative 1, I should say. Negative 1 and negative 1. Well, I have 2 linear factors equal to 0. That means they're both set equal to 0. However, it's the same factor, so I can just say one of them equals 0. That means just sine of theta minus 1 equals 0, or sine of theta equals 1. When does sine equal 1? When does my y value equal 1? That's only when theta equals 90 degrees. So 90 degrees is my only answer for that one. Alright, over here I have 2 trig functions. So I want to first get everything on the same side of the equal sign. So minus 2 cotangent theta on both sides. From there, what can I pull out? I can pull out a cotangent of theta. So I'll pull out cotangent theta. I'm left with cosecant of 3 theta. I'm left with a minus 2 from the second term. So now I'll set each one equal to 0. Cotangent theta equals 0, and cosecant 3 theta minus 2 equals 0. So here, cotangent equals 0, that's the same as saying tangent of theta equals 0 over 1 will be the reciprocal to 1 over 0, or undefined. When is tangent undefined? Tangent is undefined when x equals 0. So that happens at 90 degrees and at 270 degrees. So that's that part of the answer, 90 and 270. For this one here, we're going to say cosecant of 3 theta equals 2. I don't like it to be cosecant. I'm going to change it. It goes with sine. So sine of 3 theta equals 1/2. Sine equals 1/2 at angles of 30 degrees. And then in quadrant 2 would be 150 degrees. So that means 3 theta equals 30 and 150. To get by itself, I'm going to divide by 3. So I'll have 10 and 50 as my final answers here. Alright, so 1 through 4 down. Let's keep going. Number 11, cotangent equals the square root of 3. I'm just going to change it immediately. The tangent of theta equals 1 over the square root of 3. That's the same as root 3 over 3. Tangent of theta equals root 3 over 3. When does tangent equal root 3 over 3? Well, that's at 30 degrees. So theta will equal 30 degrees. And then in the other quadrant, which tangent is positive, is quadrant 3. So 210 degrees as my other answer. Number 12, okay? Same thing as it was number 8, I believe it was, that has multiple trig functions. Let's get them all on the same side. So secant 1/2 theta, tangent 2 theta, minus 2 tangent 2 theta equals 0. Everything's on the same side. Okay, what can I pull out? I have a tangent of 2 theta that's similar. So I'll pull out that tangent 2 theta. So what's left? Secant 1/2 theta minus 2 equals 0. That's what's left for each of those terms. So we're going to start with tangent 2 theta equals 0. And I have secant 1/2 theta minus 2 equals 0. Over here, when is tangent equals 0? Well, that's when the y equals 0 on your unit circle. So that means my inside 2 theta equals, when does y equal 0? Y equals 0 at 0 degrees and 180 degrees. That means theta here is 0 and 90 when I divide both sides by 2. Over here, I want secant of 1/2 theta equals 2. And I'm going to change secant because I don't like that. So I'm going to make it cosine of 1/2 theta equals 1/2. Well, cosine equals 1/2 in quadrants 1 and 4 with a reference angle of 60 degrees. So 1/2 of theta now, that means that it'll equal 60 degrees. And it will also equal in quadrant 4, 60 degrees becomes 300 degrees. To get theta by itself, I need to multiply both sides by 2. So 120 and 600 are my answers. And this one differs from your answer key, so take a look there and make sure that we're on the same page for that one. Number 13, I have just one trig function. However, one is squared, one is not. So let's get everything on the same side of the equal sign. Cosine squared theta. If I bring this over, I'll have a minus 3 cosine of theta. And then I would add 3 to both sides. That means plus 2 equals 0. So let's see if I can factor this. Where factors of 2 that add to negative 3, that's going to be negative 1 and negative 2. So I'll have cosine theta minus 1 and cosine theta minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to set each of those men equal to 0. 2 factors equal 0. When you multiply equal together equals 0, that means each one must equal 0. So I'll get cosine theta equals 1, or cosine theta equals 2. When is cosine equal 1? When is my x value equal 1? That is only at 0 degrees. It's the only time it will equal 1. And this, when is cosine equal 2? Well, cosine can never be bigger than 1. So cosine can never equal 2, so there is no solution for that. So my only answer in this case is theta equals 0 degrees. Alright, 14 should look also familiar. Let's combine like terms. I'm going to bring this tangent over to this side, so I'll have negative 4 equals. If I take away a tangent, I'll still have one tangent of 3 theta left, minus 5. I'll add side of both sides, so that gives me 1 equals tangent of 3 theta. When does tangent equal 1? Tangent equals 1 in quadrant 1 and 3 at 45 degrees, and then in quadrant 3 it would be 215 degrees. That's what equals the inside 3 theta. To get theta by itself, divide by 3, so I'll get 15 degrees, and this will become 105 degrees equal to theta for number 14. 2 more to go. Number 15. I don't care what this is. I have 2 factors multiplied by each other to equal 0. That means I will just set each one of them equal to 0. So 2 sine squared minus 1 equals 0, and cosine squared of theta minus 1 also equals 0. So let's solve this one first. 2 sine squared theta equals 1. When I divide both sides by 2, I'll get sine squared of theta equals 1/2. I need to now take the square root of this function. So if I take the square root of both sides, I'll have sine theta on the left, and on the right, I will have the square root of 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 1/2. I bring in that square root on my own. I need to say plus or minus. So when we do this, I'm going to do square root of both the top and the bottom. Well, the square root of 1 is just 1. Square root of 2 is the square root of 2. So that's the same thing as saying sine theta equals plus or minus root 2 over 2. Well, the reference angle I'm looking at then, if I look at my chart, is 45 degrees. So that means theta here will equal 45 degrees for quadrant 1. Where else is it positive? It's in quadrant 2, so that's 135 degrees. But I want plus or minus. So what that means is I'm looking for 45 degrees in all quadrants, all 4 quadrants. So 45, 135. I'm also going to have 225 degrees for quadrant 3, and I'm also going to have 315 degrees for quadrant 4. Now, I also need to look at this other one, where I have cosine squared of theta minus 1 equals 0. So that means cosine squared equals 1. Again, I'll take the square root of both sides, get cosine theta equals plus or minus the square root of 1, which is just 1. So when does cosine, my x value, equal positive 1, and when does it equal negative 1? Well, it equals positive 1 when theta equals 0, and when theta equals 180, it will equal negative 1 when I look at my unit circle. So 0 and 180 are my 2 answers for that. And number 16, we're going to start by getting the trig function by itself. Secant squared of theta equals 4 divided by 3. I'm going to flip this. I don't like secant squared, so I'm going to change it to cosine squared. That means I need to flip my fraction on the other side of the equation as well. So now, take the square root of both sides. I'll get cosine of theta equals the square root of 3/4. Plus or minus again, because we introduced the square root. So, plus or minus the square root of 3 I can't do anything with. However, the square root of 4 on the bottom will become 2. When is cosine equal the square root of 3 over 2? That's at 30 degrees. And it's plus or minus, so I'm going to look at all 4 quadrants again. So when cosine equals the square root of 3 over 2 would be when we have at 30 degrees. It would also be when we have at then 150 degrees for quadrant 2. We would also have 210 degrees for quadrant 3 and 330 degrees for quadrant 4. So this one also is a little bit different than what your answer key suggested. So make sure that you have that correction made in your paper. And that's how we're going to be doing these problems. But one last one, just because I said it, here's a little bonus if you're watching this right now. We had a problem that said sine squared of theta equals 3 cosine squared of theta. And how do I find what theta is for this one? This is our tricky one where we're going to divide both sides by cosine squared. So, I mean, sine squared theta over cosine squared theta would equal 3. Sine divided by cosine is the same thing as saying tangent. So sine squared over cosine squared equals tangent squared. Again, I take the square root of both sides. So tangent theta will equal plus or minus the square root of 3. Tangent equals the square root of 3 at 30 degrees. So again, 30 degrees in all 4 quadrants. So theta equals, again, 30 degrees, 150 degrees, 210 degrees, and 330 degrees. So there you go. Best of luck to you, and have a good evening.